Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. We are still recapping the awful loss to the Eagles, and of course the worst part of the loss was losing Scattaboo. So we do have an update on him. Dable spoke to the media and said that that Scat got surgery. He did not give any updates, so we don't know if there was an infection. We don't know why the surgery was rushed to do it just that night as opposed to waiting. We don't know if there were torn ligaments or anything else, but what we do know is that he had a dislocated ankle and that he got surgery for it and is recovering. So Dable said that he spoke to Scat via text, and that from what he could tell, he was in good spirits, as good of spirits as he could tell via text message. He said that he was texting him at 4:08 a.m. and he said, that's just Scat. And that the recovery process begins. He didn't give any type of timetable. Obviously, I think the fair assumption to make is that he's out for the rest of the season. And just wish him a speedy recovery, and he's back next year. He's obviously a key piece to this offense. It's going to look different without him, but Tyrone Tracy is a productive back. He was last year. He has been this year. So we're obviously going to see a lot more of him. I hope that also means that they elevate Turbo. You guys know I love Turbo, and I think he can be a valuable piece to this offense. And when you've got a rookie quarterback who needs help, bring him pieces to help him. So with that being said, I want to talk about Dart because there were some good things that happened in this game. And the thing about this season as a whole, since Dart has become the starter, that's so frustrating to me is, we talked all off season after watching the Commanders, and you see these different teams and how a quarterback makes such a difference. And only the Giants could get a quarterback that is doing pretty much everything in his power to win. He's not been perfect. He's made mistakes. In this game especially, I think he held on to the ball too long and took sacks he shouldn't have taken. But he was good with ball security, and he made smart decisions with the balls, and he threw some really nice and perfect throws that should have been caught. But Darius Slayton did not catch it, and neither did Theo Johnson. So that's disappointing for him. But it's just, we finally get a quarterback, and we still can't win games. So it's very frustrating. But this team has struggled in the red zone, and since Dart has been here and since he's played, they have been a lot more successful in the red zone. Last year, this team barely scored 10 points a game. We were watching a team that was barely scoring a single touchdown in a game. And now we've got multiple touchdowns. We put up 32 points against the Broncos. We put up 21 against the Chargers. We put up 20 against the Eagles. It should have been more, obviously. They put up 34 against the Eagles the first time. So the offense is moving the ball, and there are some good key contributors. The offensive line is playing so well. We've been begging for years for an offensive line to play this well. Andrew Thomas, when healthy, is unbelievable. He should be an all-pro left tackle this year. Jermaine Illuminor had not a great game, but has overall had a great year. Even John Michael Schmitz has been playing better. GVR, who had an absolute nightmare of a first game on the season, has been light years better. Same thing with John Runyon. We finally have an offensive line that is giving our quarterback time to get through every single read. So the offensive line's great. We have a decent run game. We did before Sunday, before Scat went down. So there are a lot of things to like. Wandale has mostly been playing well. Daniel Bellinger, when he's been involved, he's been playing great. He's been very productive. Theo Johnson has drops, but he makes up with it with some great catches. And Darius Slayton should have had that touchdown, which would have been huge for the Giants. A big play for him and for Dart. So, there are a lot of things that are going well. Like I said, I think Turbo is really going to help out this offense. Chris Manhertz has been a great blocker when he's been involved. And it's just frustrating that it's not translating to wins and we can't really enjoy it. But overall, I think this is a great step in the right direction for Dart. These next, 9 games are about Dart and no one else. It's about him improving and getting better. And I know that he wants to win. And, I hope that we can get some wins for him. But, we're not going to the playoffs and we're not fighting for the division. So it's unfortunate. But with that being said, let's switch gears and talk about the defense because, so many of us were so worried that the offense was going to be the weak link on this football team, right? Going into the season, not knowing about Andrew Thomas, not knowing about Russell Wilson, not knowing how much we were going to see about Scat, and he was on and off dealing with that hamstring this summer. If we saw Dart, we didn't know what to expect with him. Didn't know what this offensive line was going to look like. Obviously optimistic about Malik Neighbors, but overall, so many concerns from all of us about this offense. Thinking the defense, we got $100 million secondary. We have Abdul Carter. Bobby O's healthy. Newbin's healthy. Phillips is healthy. And they have been so disappointing. And to me, what's the most disappointing about it is that some individual performances have been fantastic. Brian Burns consistently plays amazing. He's got 10 sacks on the league. He's got double-digit tackles for loss. He's incredible. You've got Kayvon, who's mostly playing well, contributed to a lot of the pressures on the quarterback. Abdul Carter, who's leading the rookies with double-digit pressures. He's been unbelievable, has a half a sack on Sunday. Should have multiple sacks, but the quarterbacks have been getting flags and they've been taking the sacks away from him. He's been making an impact. Cordell Flott, unbelievable season that not a singular person expected from him. He's been unbelievable. And then Paulson Adebo and Javon Hollins, who maybe a lot of us overestimated what they do in the run game because those two out and no one knows how to stop the run game. Adebo was playing great. Holland was playing better than we all thought he was. And they are just not coming through. And they're collapsing. They're giving up explosive runs. They're giving up consistent runs, no matter who it is, whether it's the starting running back or the backup. They can't force turnovers. And even when Kayvon does get the fumble, it doesn't matter. That's not the Giants' ball because no one knows how to officiate the tush push. So they just have been so disappointing. And the worst part for me is that so many of us were so worried about this happening this year. And, this offseason, I was like, I'm going to give Shane Bowen the benefit of the doubt. He's got an upgraded secondary and he has Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence is healthy and Burns is healthy and this and that, right? Gave him every excuse in the book you could possibly think of. Especially after the owner comes out and says he's sick of watching opponents run up and down the field on us. Sick of it. And what does our division rival just go ahead and do? Rush for 278 yards on the ground against this defense. But they made their bed. They decided to keep Shane Bowen. They brought in Shane Bowen to stop the run. And in a year and a half, he has not stopped the run. No matter who's on this team. No matter who's healthy or not healthy, no success in stopping the run. Not consistently, at least. They do it one week, not the next. So the frustration is very real with this defense. I think the defensive line is good. I don't know what is going on with Dexter Lawrence. Carl Banks called him out personally on his podcast with Bob Papa and said, no one respects you. And I heard that from Carl and I was like, damn, he is not holding back. But he's right. You know who got double teamed a hell of a lot last year? He even got triple teamed and still made plays? Dexter Lawrence. He's getting double teamed this year, is not doing anything. Nothing. And Banks brought up a good point because Darius Alexander, Nacho, Roy Robertson Harris, all have quarterback hits. Some of them have sacks. DJ Davidson has played well, dare I say. So Dexter Lawrence, not helping out anyone. Certainly not helping out your rookie quarterback. It's just frustrating. They don't seem to play as a team. I don't know if they don't like Shane Bowen and they're not bought in. I don't know if they're out of shape, if they're tired. I really don't know what the problem is, but I don't want to hear it. Because maybe they don't like the coaching staff. Maybe they don't. Maybe they need to have a meeting with Shane Bowen every single week and say, listen, bro, be aggressive. Listen to us. We can handle it. It worked when you did it. You have to be consistent. We'll be consistent. I don't know what the solution is outside of firing Shane Bowen, which they're not doing, clearly. So we're stuck with it. The players are stuck with it. I don't know how to fix it. Again, aside from getting a new DC, which is not happening anytime soon. So it's just disappointing. Brian Burns is playing at an unbelievable level. Cordell Flott was doing the same before he got injured. He's dealing with a concussion, so hopefully he's going to be back on Sunday. But the last couple Giants players who have had concussions were out for 2 full weeks, so not holding my hopes up on that. So we'll see what happens. But I want to continue on with the Bowen conversation because I listened to Brian Dable's postgame, and I thought it was really interesting because for the last 2 weeks, he's been visibly upset with Bowen on the sidelines. And Dable said that he had a conversation with Bowen. He told him to be aggressive. Again, this was a couple weeks ago before the first Eagles game, when you also had the players saying, we sat down with Bowen and told him to be more aggressive. So we have this history, right? And then Dable speaking to the media, and, in the initial part of the press conference, he says, we lost on all sides of the ball, and you can't win a game like that. Okay. He continues to go on. He's asked about Jackson Dart play. Doesn't say anything about Dart. Nothing bad about the offensive line. Asked about Darius Slayton. Asked about, Theo Johnson and Wandale. Says nothing bad about the offense, which I get that he's the players guy and he doesn't want to throw his players under the bus, but come on, we're not stupid. Say that your players have to make a play, that someone has to step up when scat goes down, that, we could have played better and put up more points. We could have done this. We could have done that. I'm kind of just shocked. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be, but the way that he just absolutely glazes Dart is wild. And we can have that conversation on another day. But again, Dart played a good game. He did. But he held on to the ball too long and took sacks that he shouldn't have taken. You got to say your rookie quarterback has some things to improve on. Anyway, then at the end of the presser, he ends the presser by saying this when he was asked about, I don't know, the defense or whatever. And he says, well, it's hard to win games when you give up 278 yards on the ground. That was on Sunday after the game. And I know that after they watch the film and whatever, they go back and probably are a little more even-keeled about things. Okay, I get it. You watched the film, and the film showed you that you have a defensive problem, both from a scheme and maybe a talent perspective. But other teams don't have that issue. The Lions are on to their second, third string players. The Broncos that we just played last week had a third string guard in. The Eagles had a backup center in. I don't want to hear it. So I think there's some issues between Dable and Bowen. Doesn't surprise me. There were issues between him and Wink too. Is Dable the problem? Is Bowen the problem? It's probably a little bit of both, like it was with him and Wink. But like I said, I don't know how to fix it. I just thought it was very interesting that Dable decided in that press conference to end it on that you're not winning games when you give up 277 yards on the ground. And that was a dig at your defense and the defensive coordinator who put them in that position. So we'll continue to watch it, obviously see how things go, but we are going to turn the page onto the Niners, who the Giants take on Sunday, and go from there. So stay tuned for more, subscribe for more New York Giants news and updates.